Good afternoon. Happy Halloween, everyone. And welcome to another TMDSAS office hour. My name is Sulima Melendez, and I am the TMDSAS Support Coordinator. And I am so happy to have our guest here, our two of our applicant liaisons. We have Brianna and we have Miriam. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, my name's Brianna Beats. I'm the Senior Applicant Liaison at TMDSAS, and I also help develop resources for applicants.
Oh, hi, my name is Miriam Cabrera, and I'm also an applicant liaison.
Thank you guys. And thank you guys so much for joining me in this Halloween edition. I was really excited about this one. And for my costume, I'm sure you can guess. I think it gives it away with the color. And I thought about getting bangs, but then I realized bangs don't probably look good on me. So I probably just stay away from them.
I think you would look good with bangs.
Oh, thank you. All right, everyone. So, as y'all know, tomorrow, November 1st, will be the deadline for the Team DCS application if you are completing your dental or medical application. For this cycle, our new deadline time will be 11:59 p.m. rather than 5 p.m. as it normally has been in the past. So you do have another extra hours, a couple of hours to work on your application if you are still working on that. And as long as you get it in by 11:59 p.m. Central Time, your application will be submitted on time to be considered for this EY 2023 application cycle. And so, in order to make sure that you are able to complete your application and answer any questions that you may have, you can go ahead and submit those in the chat. We are here to answer your questions. Anywhere between 30 to maybe an hour, just depending on how many questions we get. But we are more than happy and welcome those questions our way, so that way we can help you all submit the application. And we are live, so if you ask any questions, we'll get those answered for you as soon as possible. And you don't have to wait. You don't have to call in. You don't have to send us a message. We'll be here to answer your questions live. But in the meantime, if you guys would like to let us know if you guys have any plans for Halloween. I know for me, I didn't really do much this weekend, but today I plan on watching a scary movie. So that's what I'll be doing, drinking a little bit of wine too, because why not? But
What
Miriam,
movie?
Brianna, I want to watch the new Halloween movie that came out, but I need to be brave and finally face my fear and watch the first couple movies before that. Just I've always been scared to watch them by myself. So this is the first for me, and we'll see how it goes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I did just watch the new Hocus Pocus this
Mm,
weekend, and I enjoyed it, but then I had to go back and watch the first one because it's so classic.
exactly. Yeah, I heard good reviews about this new one, so I'm
It was
excited for that
cute.
one. Yeah.
hmm
Miriam?
I'm a little bit. I always like to revisit old movies. I don't know if you have watched What Lies Beneath
hmm
with Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Mm,
So
I have not, but
yeah, that was done from the 2000s. So that's an old movie.
Wait, is that a Halloween movie?
Well, it's like a scary. I mean, not in the sense of a scary movie like Jason and all of that, but it's a very it's sort of like a ghost movie. So it's a good movie to watch.
hmm, it does remind me. I watched a movie Friday. I watched a movie. It's called Practical Magic from 1998. So
Yeah.
this one has Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock, and it was funny to watch. Like not funny, but it's just like nice to see how young they look back then. They were so little. So that's what I watched. So
If
yeah,
you like if you like that one, you should watch The Witches of Eastwick.
let me write that down.
Cher is in it, and I want to say Michelle Pfeiffer is also in that one.
Nice. I'll put that. It's already on my list, actually.
Nice.
I did want to mention really quickly, because we get this question a lot and it just popped into my head right now. But in order to submit your application, you actually don't need to have your test scores and your letters of evaluation in. As long as you complete those sections of the application, it should be good to go. And the letters of evaluation deadline is actually not until November 15th. So if you don't have those, just don't worry about those. Go ahead and just worry about submitting your application. That way it's already in, ready to process, potentially processed by one of these lovely ladies. And whenever the deadline comes around, make sure you have your letters submitted by then, which is, again, November 15th. And just make sure you have those in by then. And let's see, we already have a question in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and show it on the screen. This is from Jennifer. Love y'all's costumes. Thank you so much. We put a lot of effort into this. If I submitted my primary for around a week, should I be able to receive the secondary application before the November 15th deadline for some schools? Do one of y'all want to tackle that question?
Yeah, so I know this is a question that's come up quite a bit recently for folks who've just submitted. Just as a reminder that there is the 2 to 4 week processing window. So that's the expected time frame that TMDSAS is going through those primary applications and transmitting them to the schools. Also be sure to keep up on communications from us if we reach out asking for some documentation to confirm residency status or any coursework issues or anything like that. But in that sense, I know a lot of the schools send out a link to their secondaries after they receive the primaries. So you can still count on that. But just to allow for that 2 to 4 week window of processing.
All right, Miriam, did you want to add anything?
Well, you have until tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. to submit your application. So before we used to have it until 5 p.m., but now it's until close to midnight. Not midnight, but 11:59. So please take advantage of that and just submit your application.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to keep track of this deadline just because if you're still in your junior or senior year of college, you are familiar with a lot of your assignments being due by 11:59. So I think this year it should be a little bit easier to remember that deadline because it's very similar to other deadlines that you probably are already used to having. And we have a comment here. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. This is I'm lucky that it landed on a Monday when we have office hours. I'm just so happy. Happy Halloween to you too. All right. I submitted my application for dental school. As it closes tomorrow, will I be able to update any planned coursework and add courses? Do y'all want to answer that one?
Yes. Short answer, yes. You're always able to update the planned coursework section, or if you did not previously indicate that you would be taking coursework this upcoming year and you have decided to take classes, just reach out to your applicant liaison and let them know that you need to add either if you need to add a college in the college attendance section or just adding coursework terms and coursework for this upcoming semester, and we'll be able to help you update that.
Yeah, so just send us a message in your TMDSAS application portal. It is the quickest way to let us know of any updates that need to be made. And definitely once you send that message in, we'll have someone help you out with that for sure. But yes, you can always update your planned coursework, and in fact, you should, just to make sure that you, this is the best way to keep the schools in the loop of what you're doing, and that you will clear those deficiencies if you have any, and to show them that you will be completing your prerequisites before you matriculate. So definitely update that as soon as you know that there are any changes that just let us know. And congratulations on submitting your dental application.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that was a great question. So thank you for the question.
Yeah. And you're welcome.
You're welcome.
So that's, let me see, letters. Oh, and I did want to mention about scores, just because sometimes those are kind of like left behind. But with your test scores, like I mentioned previously, you don't have to have those scores already released in order for you to submit your application, because you can do that without having to wait on your scores. But I did want to mention that if you plan on doing that, make sure that you go back into your application status page in your portal, just to make sure that we did receive your scores. And so when you go to the application status page, at the bottom of the page, it'll have a section for test scores. And you'll want to check that it has your test date listed. And next to that column, it'll say, it'll have a date or it'll say not received. So if there's a date next to them, that means that that was the date that we received your score, or scores, and they're already uploaded on your application, and your schools will be able to see that. But if it says not received, it most likely is because of one of three reasons. One, it's you probably have the wrong test date listed. Um, Two, maybe your date of birth is listed out differently on your application than it probably is in your DAT or your AMC account. Sorry, ADA or AMC account. Or you probably have the wrong PIN number if you have the DAT, or the wrong AMC ID if you have the MCAT. So make sure you have those three components that are the same on both your application and in your accounts. And I mention that just because in the past, I've seen a lot of applicants who have submitted or released their scores to us, um, and it's not matching up to their application because one of those three components is not the same. So I would really hate for y'all to have that released to us and think that we have it, when in reality there might be an issue with one of those three components. That is important for us to have the same thing on your application and in your account, so that way your scores are matching up to your application.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
that's why it is so important that applicants check within the application portal to get that receipt, or to see that their scores have been matched to their application. I know some folks just assume that everything has gone correctly, and then they're surprised to find out their scores aren't there, and there may be a case, like you're saying, mismatched information, or just some small error that needs to be corrected. So definitely, if you've submitted your application, you've received a message from one of your liaison telling you to, look over a few things after submitting, and that's one of them. So definitely make sure to check on those scores.
Yes, and I went ahead and entered the link to the page that we have in the application guide. On there, it does have an image of what this application section looks like, where you can check for your scores, your letters, even transcripts once those are needed. So definitely take a look at that. It has a step-by-step on how to find that page. As y'all know, some of the schools will need to see your scores and your letters in order for them to extend an invitation for an interview. So that would be very important for you to make sure that you have, so that way you can get that opportunity. And we have another question. Will it take 3 weeks for it to reflect on my application? Would this be about your test scores? Let us know in the chat.
Because it will not take 3 weeks for test scores to be reflected. Usually takes 24 hours once your scores are released, 24 to 48 hours for your scores to populate with TMDSAS.
Yeah, and I think if the 3 weeks might be referred to how long it takes for you to receive the scores on your end. I know that the ADA can take about 3 weeks or so to let you know what your score was on your exam. So that's probably the timeline you might be thinking about. But once you get those scores and those are released to you, and of course you've released them to Team DCS, like Brianna mentioned, it shouldn't take that long. But let us know if you were referring to something else, or if you have like a follow-up question to that.
Mhm.
And I did want to mention that this is officially the last office hour of the cycle. However, we will be having other sessions coming up throughout the rest of the time between now and the start of the next EY entry year cycle, which would be 2024. And the next session that we would have would be with the Team DSCS director, Enrique, which I'm sure a lot of y'all are familiar with. He will be joining us for another session later on soon. Don't have a specific date yet, but just keep an eye out for the TXHES YouTube page. So we'll be talking about the EY 2023 numbers. So kind of going over what that looks like, how many applications we received, how competitive this year was, in order for you to get an idea of what the scope of it looks like for whenever you begin your application, if you're going to reapply or you're watching this and thinking, I want to apply in the next year when the application opens. So that'll be some great information to tune in for. And again, just feel free to ask any of your questions in the chat. This is a great opportunity to get your questions answered right away. You can always send us a message in your TMDSAS application portal, or give us a call. So our phones are open or on from 9 to 12, and then 1 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. But because the application is due tomorrow, you want to make sure that you take advantage of every opportunity you can to ask those questions before the deadline. Once it's 11:59 p.m., that's the final deadline. There will be no extensions. So make sure you get your application submitted by then. And
And
we'll,
just
yeah.
uh-huh.
Oh,
Uh,
sorry.
just a few reminders, since I have seen that several times.
Hmm.
When you enter in your coursework, if you can just take some time and enter all the grades as they appear on your transcripts. As I have seen, sometimes maybe you are rushing and you miss some of your grades from some of the terms that you already have attended. So just take your time and enter all the grades that you have received so far when you do your application.
Yeah, I would definitely say echo that too. I saw those missing at the beginning of the cycle, a lot of people just missing their grades for their courses. So you want to make sure your application is complete. So make sure that you go through it. I also definitely recommend that you, before you submit your application, go over it one more time, twice, three times, just to make sure it's all completed, that you're not missing any sections. I know. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard from some of our liaisons that they've seen sections missing, text boxes left as come back to, and then it was never
Right.
come back to.
Right, there's nothing spookier than putting the word placeholder or one character in your essay sections and then forgetting to come back and fill those out, realizing that you've submit your application and you can't change that.
Yeah, and that is a section that you won't be able to make any changes to once you submit. So definitely take a look at that. I would say take a look at that section multiple times and have someone else take a look at it, especially if you already have an essay on there, that there's no grammar or punctuation or spelling errors. I know some of the calls that we've received from applicants was I had a typo or I had this looked a little funky. Unfortunately, we can't make any changes. I don't think it would be detrimental to you, but definitely you want to avoid those mistakes as much as possible. So I'll go ahead and link to the application guide. If you're still working on your application, I definitely, well, we all definitely recommend that you follow along with this application guide whenever you're filling out your each of the sections in your application to make sure you're filling it out to the best of your ability. There's a couple of tips on there on how to fill it out, so definitely have that by your side as you're filling it out. All right, and I know we have a couple questions here. This one's from Giselle. Hello, my name is Alexis. I just want to make sure I can submit my application with no DAT test taken as of yet, as long as it is taken prior to the due date, correct?
Yes, yes, that's correct. As long as you are entering that planned test date, and it's within the requirements, as outlined by the medical schools, then you are good to submit.
Yes, and I did want to add really quickly information just to make sure that, again, like you don't have to have your score in whenever you submit your application, but you definitely want to make sure that you have those submitted as soon as you can, as soon as you have the scores. So specifically with the DAT, it is recommended that you take the DAT in the spring or summer prior to applying, but definitely no later than December 1st. And the reason for that is because offers of admission do go out mid-December. So waiting to the last minute to take your DAT up until that date or even after will possibly delay your any consideration for admission until those scores have been received and submitted into your application. And this is just the feedback that I heard from the dental schools, was that December 1st was pretty late in the game, because at that point, if you take your test in December 1st, like we mentioned earlier, the ADA can take about 3 weeks to release your scores by the time that we get it and it's sent to TMDSAS, and available for your schools to see on their end. It's pretty what they said was, at that point you're playing with fire, because it's pretty close to whenever they've already started sending out those interview invites. And so you want to make sure that in order for you to have the best opportunity to get an interview invite is to make sure that your scores are sent in, so that way they have it on their end. So not to spook you all out more than you probably are because of this deadline, but just know that this is really important as well, and you don't want to miss out with this test scores. Okay. And our other question is, will I get an email from Team DSCS to submit my transcripts, or from the school? Do y'all want to tackle that question?
Yes, you will get an email from us, and do not send your transcripts unless TMDSAS has requested them.
Agree. And another thing that I can say is that oftentimes the schools will also request you to send transcripts to them as well. And the reason for that is that they also want their own or copies of your transcripts, just so that they can have it on their record. But we do use them for different purposes. So while the school will keep those for their own records, as you have been accepted, Team DSCS will use those transcripts to validate your coursework. So what that means is that we'll look at what your official transcripts say and make sure that it's the same thing as what's listed in your application, making sure that those grades are listed accurately. And that's just the process that we do on our end.
Sulema, I did just want to take 1 second to backtrack to our first question that Jennifer Lynn had asked about the secondaries and schools who may have a November 15th deadline. Like, I know, for example, Southwestern does have a November 15th deadline for their secondary. And it looks like their secondary, you are able to access it with a login. I may be mistaken about this, whether or not the primary has to be received, but I would go ahead and start filling out that secondary and see if you can submit it in the time that it takes for your primary application to finish transmitting with us. And if you have any follow-up questions about that, please reach out to us, call us, or message your applicant liaison in the portal, and we'll make sure that you're feeling confident and good about the process for your secondary application.
Yeah, thank you, Brianna, for catching that. I know with the secondary applications, we usually ask the applicant to refer to the school, since these secondary applications are not managed by Team DCS, only your primary. So unfortunately, we only know so much about secondary applications and their deadlines. Based on what we have on our after submitting page of the application guide, it looks like UT Southwestern is the only one that has given us an actual deadline for their secondary application. So the other schools that require a secondary don't have that information. So definitely go to the schools if you have questions about the secondary application deadlines, because they all do something differently. So it's well, one school may be doing might be the same thing that another school does.
Absolutely. And we have that information on our website on how to contact the admissions departments of the separate schools.
Correct. And I also went ahead and put the contact page for the schools. It has all of our member institutions listed out and their contact information. If you have any questions, you can go to them. All right, here's another question. So what if my DAT test date changes? Can I just call to update the date? So actually, you should be able to, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but from what I remember, the DAT and the MCAT pages, you can always make changes to on your end yourself as an applicant. So if you have any changes to your test dates, you can actually go in there and make changes to those planned test dates. But correct me if I'm wrong. If that.
One way to ensure that that change happens is just to reach out to your liaison. And if you're not able to make that change yourself, we will definitely assist you in that.
Okay, yeah. So I would say try it out on your end on that DAT page. I'm almost positive that it does work, and you should be able to make that change if you need to make changes to your plan test dates. And if it doesn't work out, you can just either give us a call or send us a message. That way you can let us know what that date should be, or if you just want to check that it was changed. But yeah, so keep sending those questions our way. We'll stick around for just another few more minutes. Again, we'll be here as long as you need us to be here for those questions. But we definitely want you guys to take this opportunity, if you haven't already, to ask any questions. We're here. I'm here with a couple of experts, so definitely we'll be able to help you all out. All right, and this is just a follow-up from Alexis. Also, I think I'm just freaking out because it's getting closer, but it's due tomorrow at 11:59 Central Standard Time, not tonight, right? Sorry, I'm just getting nervous. LOL. That's okay. So, and totally understand, freaking out, totally understandable. But yeah, the application deadline is actually tomorrow, Tuesday, November 1st at 11:59 Central Time, not tonight. So I guess my office hour did spook you out a little bit, a little too much. But yeah, this is just this today is just a day for you to be able to ask your questions. But yes, your application will be due tomorrow at 11:59 Central Time.
And also, when you log into your application portal, there is a countdown bar there that says how many days, hours, and minutes left until the close of the application. So if you need it written out in an analog way, just for your own sense of well-being, it's listed there in the application portal.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I will tell Giselle just to have fun tonight, and then tomorrow you can sit down in the computer and just calmly you can complete your application.
Yeah, definitely. As stressful as this can be, totally get it. At the same time, you want to make sure that you take care of yourself and you're doing what you can so that you don't feel too overwhelmed, and take it step by step, and maybe you can pace yourself when completing these sections. I know it's a long application to fill out, so definitely if you need to take some time to rest and then come back and work on it, you can do that, because again, your deadline is tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. And another question, what if I had a relative that is a dentist but got her degree in Mexico? Can I still list them under the relative section for dentist? Miriam or Brianna, if you want to answer this question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I just wanted to double check and see, as long as there is no specific information listed within the application guide or the application itself saying that they must be U.S. dentists, then I would interpret that as you are able to enter that information for a relative who's a dentist in a foreign country.
Yeah, thank you. I was actually not quite sure how to answer that question, so thank you.
Because the worst that can happen is if a school reads that information and doesn't consider it. Like that information is there. It's up to the schools how they want to use that. But you're just reflecting the information and answering the questions as accurately as you feel possible, and that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, thank you for that reassurance. And I think this kind of like goes into this pressure to having to make sure everything is right on the application. But if you, of course, you do your best in entering the information, I don't think that it should be detrimental for you. All right, so it's getting close to 1:34, so we'll stick around for another minute and just see if we have any additional questions from you all. I've been having a blast so far, and with our little cute backgrounds and our costumes, so happy to be here.
Yeah, you need to do every office hour like this, like a costume
Yeah, right.
party.
I know, I was thinking that too, because all the other ones have been in normal clothes, nothing extraordinary, but this time
Right.
it was a lot more fun.
Yeah.
I'll
Um,
definitely take you all up on that.
yeah, I have a final reminder for
Hmm.
the applicants.
Yeah.
Our website has a ton of resources. Like any question that you may have, you will find the answer there as well. Like if you find yourself tomorrow at 11, I hope not, but if you are at 11 and you have a question, please go to our website. It has a ton of resources and a wonderful the application guide. So it's just TMDSAS.com.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll
thank you
add
for
it
pointing
again.
out. Yeah. I do have a question for you two. What is your favorite Halloween candy?
Mm.
That's a great question. For me, that means I had to run another mile,
Oh my gosh, Miriam.
an extra mile,
That's what you said last time to
right?
me. So the other day, I grabbed a Snicker, and it's like the bite size. It's not even like the full size or like the slightly bigger size. It's the bite size. And I grabbed it. I reached out to get it, and Miriam was like, "That's another mile you'll have to run." And I was what?
Okay, Miriam. Penance aside, right? This is a guilt-free uh, space. Just if you're just enjoying the candy and
All
it comes
right,
to,
all right.
yeah.
Well, my all-time favorite is Snickers, if you couldn't tell earlier. But
Mhm.
yeah, Snickers are my favorite. Um, Even if it's not Halloween, I think that's always going to be my favorite candy.
Ooh, do you ever do frozen Snickers?
Hmm.
I haven't actually.
If
I've
you
had
take
a
them,
Snickers cake.
ooh, yeah, those are good.
Hmm.
I mean, if you take the little mini ones and put them in the freezer, it's like the perfect amount because it's just one bite and it doesn't like break your teeth. But Snickers frozen is pretty good.
I'll definitely try that. I actually
Mm,
still have some in
that's
my
good.
pantry, so I will definitely be doing that and trying it out. What about you, Brianna? What's your favorite?
Uh, that was such a good question that I asked that I don't know how to answer. Um, I like as a kid or even as an adult like the special types of candy that only come out for the holidays.
Mm.
The kind of real exceptional ones. But I gotta say, all around candy favorite is Sour Patch Kids.
Oh, yeah. I started liking those a lot more now that I'm older. 'Cause when I was little, I could not stand it, and I would make these ugly faces. I couldn't do it. Oh man. All right, we have two more questions I will answer that are just came in into our chat box. I was about to say chat box. All right. This one is for the work history section of the application. So for my work history, if I had a job through all of my college years, do I need to list it per every semester just because I felt it was repetitive and a long list, or do they look at the dates through current?
Yeah, that's a good question. If there are large gaps in between that employment, it may be worth listing them separately. But we would suggest like one listing to encompass that employment. If it's per semester, I mean, you could just give a cumulative look at the time span of dates, and then in the text box for that activity, you could indicate, average hours worked and that it was only during certain months or certain semesters.
Yeah, I went ahead and also entered a link to the activities page of the application guide because right at the top of the page, we have information about what is a current activity, what is a planned activity, when is an activity current versus planned, and that last box, entering asynchronous activities. It gives you information about specifically your question. If you have an activity that was done like once, like maybe over the summer, over a long period of time, or if you want to break it down in a different way, it kind of gives you an example of how you can break that activity down, whichever makes most sense in your case for your activity, since you know what you did and how to best show that off in your application. And our last question, do y'all have information about scholarship opportunities?
So unfortunately, as of right now, TMDSAS does not have any scholarship opportunities as far as pertaining to submitting your primary application. However, each of the individual schools may have some resources within their website, or if you were to reach out to them, email or call. I know that they would have some information about different scholarship opportunities and the criteria for each of those.
Yeah, and I did want to share. So last week we had a session with MCAT, so the team from AMC, and they gave us some information about their um, fee assistance program. So if you have taken your MCAT or you're planning to, you can always go to them for information about the fee assistance program that they provide. Um, like Brianna said, we don't unfortunately have that on our end with our application. However, if you qualify for a free assistance program aid through the AMC, a lot of our member institutions will take that information and consider it for either waiving or completely getting rid of the waiving the secondary application fee. But this is just a schools by schools basis. So if you want to take a look at that session, let me put that into the chat.
And your pre-health advisors are also another great tool. Reach out to your advisors. They may have some information on different scholarships and how to access those scholarship forms.
Correct. The schools will definitely have more information about scholarships, for sure. They will have that information. All right, y'all. Well, it looks like.
And
Okay.
yes,
Yeah. Go ahead.
another resource it would be the
Mhm.
AMMC.
Mhm.
You can check their website. I think they offer like 5 scholarship or so. So that's another resource.
Yeah, and I know that page has a lot of information, but they do have information about scholarships and fee assistance. Um, okay. Okay. We have one more question about fee assistance. Do you all provide any information on how much financial aid can assist you with when it comes to dental school? Do amounts increase from university to dental school, or does it stay at the same? So I don't think, again, we don't have information about scholarships, or in this case, it sounds like this is like financial aid, that maybe like a financial aid package that your school can provide. So once you get accepted into dental school, they might be able to provide you with a financial aid package, similarly to whenever you're applying for your undergrad, and how those schools can offer aid packages. Brianna or Miriam, would you like to pitch in?
Yeah, no, I think that was a fantastic answer. I was just going to add that if you keep up to date with the Texas Health Education Service website, as well as the newsroom that is there, the information on the Inside Health Education newsroom is always being updated, different articles and things like that. So you can also search by keyword. You could search scholarship, see if we've covered a session talking to either one of the schools individually or about scholarships at large. Another piece of advice I would give is if we are doing any sort of open-ended Q&A with any of the school panels, medical school panel, dental school panel, veterinary school panel, that I would encourage you to log in for those sessions and ask your questions directly to the admissions teams for more specific information on that. Even if they don't have an answer at the time, we would then take that question back and work with them and then publish information based on that.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Brianna.
Thank you. And I actually forgot, I worked on this Inside Health Education newsroom, and I forgot about this resource. So thank you for pointing it out. And I went ahead and put the link in the chat as well. Because it does, anytime that we get any news from the schools that they share with us, we publish it on this newsroom. So it has the information that the schools want you all to be aware of, and it's updated frequently. So it does have that information available. Sometimes the schools have information about post-bac programs that they offer, any kind of application workshops or seminars, and definitely any kind of like financial assistance information as well. So stay tuned into that website, and it has a lot of information about just in general the pre-health community and education and everything you need to know about that. Alrighty, well, I think this is it. We've reached the end of our session. So I want to thank you all so much for joining us and tuning in, asking your questions. Great questions, by the way. So thank you. Alexa said, thank you guys. Have a happy Halloween. Same to you all. Before we close this out, though, Brianna, Miriam, do you want to say any last words of wisdom or advice that you'd like the applicants to know?
Have a happy and safe Halloween.
And likewise, and just grab your favorite drink, do some breathing exercises before you sit down to finish your application, and just have fun with it and enter all the information that you need to enter, and the rest will take care by itself. So have a great Halloween.
Thank you guys. Thank y'all so much. And thank you all for, again, joining us. I hope y'all have a lovely Halloween. Good luck on submitting that application, and good luck to you all on the rest of this journey throughout this EY 2023 application cycle. And thank you all for joining us for all these office hours that we had this cycle. I had a lot of fun with y'all, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.